What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Roll Up. Today we are here with our friend Brian from Chainlight, co-founder and CEO of Chainlight, as well as Theory. So we're gonna be talking about Theory as a bigger picture, what the vision is, and then diving a little bit deeper into Chainlight. And before we started this recording, we were talking about some conferences because I think today is the first day of permissionless, and Token 2049 is happening either today or tomorrow. Can't keep these time zones straight. So
Yeah.
all over the world, conferences are happening. Whether you want to call it a bear market or not, people are building. And you mentioned that the team is a bit spread out across the United States and the rest of the world. So I think that's a really great approach for conferences. It's like a divide and conquer. And then you mentioned your team was able to kind of recap and share so that everyone gets a taste.
Yeah, exactly. We got a recap from the Stanford one the other day. Hopefully, we'll get another one from Permissionless. I think our CTO is going to be there. So, yeah.
Cool. So maybe we could start, like, tell us a little bit about the team. You know, you mentioned your CTO, your co-founder and CEO. So like what is kind of the dynamic across the team? How big is the team and what do you guys tend to do? And generally what are you guys building together?
Yeah. I'm a CEO, but I also come from the very technical research-based background. So I'm probably not the best executive officer, to be honest, but I pretend to be one. So our company name is Theory, as you introduced, and we built a new and special brand specifically for Web3. So we do a lot of stuff other than Web3. We do traditional security. We do consulting business. We also have educational platforms and so on. But we focus on Web3 under the name of Chainlight, like shining the light, like a guiding beacon in Web3 ocean is what we were kind of thinking of when we came up with the name. And Chainlight is basically a team of what we call full stack Web3 experts that are making the ecosystem safer. So we don't just look at smart contracts, but capable of reviewing literally every aspect and layers that make Web3 possible. So that includes Web2 front end, back end, infrastructure, cloud, node security, financial engineering point of view. So we've audited, a bunch of mainnets, L2s. We also audited a lot of smart contracts. So yeah, just any random things that make Web3 safer, we're on it.
Cool. Can you name drop a couple of the projects that you guys have worked with and helped audit?
Yeah, so we recently finished the audit of the Blend. It's the NFT lending protocol from Blur. We also audited the Blur itself when they were optimizing it for gas optimizations and stuff. And we also looked at the Clayton. It's one of the mainnet popular in Korea. We recently did the L2 called Chroma network that uses the ZK for fault proof. It's optimistic rollup with the ZK with fault proof. So that was interesting stuff. A lot of people are moving into whole zero knowledge technology, and we've been, auditing a lot of those too. And I guess a little bit of our history is that actually way before Ethereum was this popular, right? This is like Ethereum has become the major L1, but before it was popular, our team has reported to the Ethereum Foundation a couple of vulnerabilities in Ethereum node implementation. So back then it was Geth. That was pretty much the only implementation, and that will cause it to bring down the entire network. So when you think about it right now, like it's just insane, and that shouldn't have happened. But back then we were able to find a couple of bugs that would cause that. So we got the bug bounty back then, and it was about $20,000 worth of Ethereum.
Yeah, but what era was this?
So I'd say it was like around 2016, 2017,
So
very early on.
$20,000 worth of ETH when ETH
Yeah,
was
I
what
know. It was,
2016 ETH was like $200 or so.
yep. So we
Or
made a
maybe even less,
mistake,
right?
I'd
It was like
say. Yeah. We made a mistake of, kind of not sticking it to the ETH and, changing it to fiat back then, but only if we held it. Yeah.
you got to pay the
Now we
bills, you
know
got to
better.
eat.
But
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Yeah, the we face a similar choice with the roll up where it's and I think everyone in Ethereum probably does. It's like we all got to eat, right? Like we got to pay our bills,
Right.
especially the people who are working and building in Ethereum. But
Yeah.
we all have this high conviction around ETH as a currency that it's this ultrasound money that's going to $10,000 a token. So like, how do you? It's a tough decision to reconcile that, like when you are using it as a currency. And Bitcoin has been faced with the same question all along. Is like,
Mhm.
are these things stores of value? Are they currencies? Like, how do you reconcile as a CEO, like your balance sheet, right? When you have this belief in something that it is a store of value, it's going to appreciate in price, but you got to pay people. What are some of the trials and tribulations you face as a CEO that you deal with on this line of questions?
Yeah. So obviously, with kind of running the companies in U.S. and South Korea, we kind of have to abide the regulations and law, and especially the tax laws, right? So it's a lot cleaner and easier if you pay people in fiat. Um, so we kind of have this rule where we basically convert some of the ETH or whatever tokens that we get paid with the audits and other project or bug bounties, some portion of that to enough to actually pay for our bills and our people, but we still keep some of them in their native tokens, so that way we kind of believe in that value going up and kind of trust in the project, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and that way you start to build up this war chest,
Mhm.
and especially during this bear market where it almost seems like we're just in pure apathy right now. Like it's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't feel like bull or bear. It just feels like there's no movement. Like we're just all kind of
Right.
like building in a silo. Like so
Yeah.
in these market conditions, like prices are low, but they're stable, but they're low.
Mhm.
And it seems like the best time to start accumulating. Just accumulate because you're not losing that much because everything is just kind of stagnant. Um,
Exactly.
but because prices are low, they have the potential for appreciation. So that makes a lot of sense to start building that token war chest. So I'm curious, like most of the business, it sounds like is hunting these bug bounties, which is really fun because I think it's almost like you're a headhunter, like back in the wild, like with the
Yeah.
lions, you're like going out, the men in the tribe are going out and hunting the animals and bringing them back for the tribe. Like what is your approach to the ecosystem bugs? Like what does that landscape look like? And I can give you some context on this background is like, there's like Immunify, there's kind of these like projects out there that try to aggregate all of the bugs so that they're in one central place and then propose these bounties for them. So is most of the theory to go onto these platforms and start to just kind of like whack down these bugs? What is your approach to the landscape of projects when you start to hunt for bugs? Where do you normally go first?
Yeah, so I'll be honest here. We've been kind of unlucky with the bug bounty situations, as I mentioned with the Ethereum case. But it was more of a lucky case we got actually paid. But we had some of the cases where we found the bug that are critical and we reported them, but then it kind of collided with the whole bear market and like economy just crashing. So some of the projects kind of just ran without paying us. So like it kind of like we spent all this time and effort to find bugs and trying to make this ecosystem safer. I guess we've made it safer, but then we didn't really get compensated for it. So we, I think, kind of stopped doing bug bounties recently and kind of geared towards more auditing or actual contracts with customers.
There's
Um,
there's
yeah.
still a business there. Like there's still bugs and there
Yeah.
is still value in those systems. But the bug bounties are taking on a different like persona now, right? Because
Yeah.
just look at the Curve hack the other, like this
Yeah.
was maybe a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
It's like these white hats, right? That go in, they find bugs, and it sounds like that was kind of similar to the approach. But then instead of like bringing it to the attention of the project first, they choose to actually exploit the project, hold the
Mhm.
project ransom, and then like, all right, you're gonna have to pay me to get your project back. Have you
Yeah.
ever thought about maybe you can't really, but it is like an interesting dynamic that we've kind of found ourselves in, where in order to get paid, like there are almost like these like this extra length that some of these hackers, whether they start out as white hats or not, they kind of go
Mhm.
this extra mile to ensure that they are taken seriously.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that like it has to take that turn, but I personally and our team don't really believe in that. Like that's the right way to do it. So we
Mhm.
never have actually tried it. We would always report it first to the vendor or project builders to get it sorted out first, and then kind of try to negotiate. And sometimes that goes well, sometimes it goes south. Um, but yeah, I think it's very risky and dangerous, um, especially because like you're basically, as you mentioned, it's basically a ransom at that point. You're kind of threatening the project, and all the people who are backing it were used to have funds in there as a ransom. So like project owners or builders don't really have a choice, right? Like
Mhm.
they'll kind of have to abide to like, okay, we'll pay you 10%, or I guess the 10% became the norm. I
Mhm.
feel like,
Yeah, I think so
yeah.
too.
And so yeah, and then like they just give it back and take the 10% and just be happy, I guess. But I'm not sure if that's healthy situation per se.
Yeah, it's not quite the ethical
Yeah.
the ethical, decision there is definitely questionable. There are, I mean, it is I don't want to make a case for blackmail. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll stray away from arguing that, like, these people are better than the ones who actually exploit and then steal the funds, but they're
Mhm.
still not, it doesn't feel right. They're going about it the wrong way. I feel like there is room here for systems that put up some stake, and they're like, hey, if I'm gonna like have a protocol and I'm gonna put up a bug bounty, I have to stake some capital so that
Mhm.
bug bounty hunters go and actually have insurance that the money is there when they do find a bug. And if it passes, some community consensus, right? And there's an oracle
Mhm.
that says, okay, the community, yeah, this is a valid bounty or to pay for this bug. This was a valid bug that this team found. Then the stake is released and the bounty is paid. And I think those Oracle systems are built right now because we do have on-chain insurance where
Mhm.
there's like this community consensus that arrives at, should this group be paid out their insurance money for something that happened on chain. So I think that infrastructure is there, and maybe it just wasn't it hasn't quite broken into the bug bounty landscape yet. But it's you mentioned you kind of left that business behind for a good reason. It sounds like it isn't quite mature enough to have a real business. So when did the pivot happen, and kind of like what are you guys working on now that you've left the bug bounty landscape in the rear view mirror?
Yeah, I guess bug bounty was never our main goal, I guess end goal. It was more of a like kind of proving our skill set, making sure that we find these bugs, and you know, kind of like a bounty was more of a byproduct that we could get on the way. Um, and shortly after trying out bug bounties and finding bugs from audits and whatnot, we quickly turned to more of a scalable systems, right? Like because we've been doing a lot of audits. There are only so many projects that we can do every year, every month, right? With limited number of people, number of resources. So we were like, how do we automate this process? How do we scale so that way all these smart contracts and projects in the ecosystem can benefit from it um, with lower price and faster, a more scalable way. And so we've been building a lot of internal tools to automatically find these vulnerabilities and simulate them, and actually producing exploits that will prove that it is vulnerable and hopefully suggest ways to fix them.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, and it's again important. It's the same vein as finding these bugs, helping projects sort through those vulnerabilities, and then executing them with the project behind the scenes. I think this kind of folds into our contributor roll up theory, where these businesses that are operating for multiple projects, like Theory, it sounds like is almost like an internal audit support system that you guys can roll up into almost any project. So we tend to see these projects and businesses that are like multifaceted contributors. Some DAOs have contributors that only contribute to this DAO. Other projects tend to contribute to several DAOs, and I think there's lots of opportunities for collaboration and interoperability in those sorts of styles. So, as you know, a lot of our audience right now is builders because it is a very apathetic market. If you've survived up until this point with these market conditions, you're probably involved at some level with the ecosystem, whether it's one project or it's several projects. So speaking to the builders who are watching this video, what do you suggest, or what advice can you give them for making sure and being aware of the vulnerabilities that may exist in their project that they're not readily ready to solve and fix themselves?
Yeah. So obviously, lots of tests. When you develop stuff, you're gonna make mistake. Like, we're human, we're gonna make mistakes. No one's perfect. No code is perfect. So kind of doubt yourself all the time. I don't know if it's good for your mental health, but it's really good to kind of just kind of doubt, like always doubt and make sure things are correct. So lots of testing. But we've seen a lot of cases as we were auditing that there are test cases, but there are usually not enough meaningful tests, meaning that there are edge cases that you could, come up with, but you're only testing the features that it's going to work. So of course your test's going to pass, but that's not enough to find these vulnerabilities, abnormal behaviors, right? So you have to imagine the worst possible users using your product and the most evil attackers and hackers trying to attack your protocol. So a lot of tests and secure coding guidelines. There are some guidelines out there. I don't think it's very user friendly or developer friendly yet, but we're building some of the tools that will help developers abide by secure rules and secure coding guidelines. So that way they make less mistake, they build better architecture, build better designs. Again, it is good that developers do this and builders are doing this, but also always having other set of eyes to look at them is always helpful. So getting audits is very useful. And then just don't get one audit from one company, probably get it from multiple if you can afford them, I guess. But I think it's worth it at the end of the day, especially if your project is going to be holding, millions of dollars, right? It's to save your basically users' funds in a safe place. And in the CI/CD, so continuous integration, continuous development pipeline, there are some tools that aim to help here, but it's not good enough, we feel like. So we're building one as well, and hopefully we'll be able to show off and have people use them to make the ecosystem safer.
Yeah, that peer review system of a continuous integration, GitHub Actions that provide checks and balances, super important. Because the old adage is, even if you wanted to steal someone's funds and you couldn't, that's the sign of a secure system. So yeah, almost like putting on your like hacker hat and thinking, how can I break into this protocol? Right. is like the best way to audit it, right? Because then you have the intentions in mind that if you do find something, you can fix it before it gets exploited.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect. So Brian, where can our audience find you? If they're heads down building, moving fast and breaking things, and they don't have time to fix the things that they break, they should call you, and then you and your team can go and audit some of those holes. Where can they find you, and what's the best way to start getting in touch?
Yeah, anyone can come to chainlight.io. That's our website. You can submit audit requests. I think we're launching a new product in 2 days. That's going to be risk assessment platform where people can come in whether you be cryptocurrency exchange that are trying to figure out the risk of the tokens that you're about to list, whether you're project builders that you have your own token, you have your own smart contracts that can basically upload and request automated audits and automated risk assessment. There, not only we look at the code security, we also look at the on-chain data and events that look suspicious and alert people. So chainlight.io is going to be our website. You can also check out our Twitter, chainlight_io. So I guess we should call it X now. Yeah, but
yeah, check them out on X. Cool. Chainlight and Theory, very, very important for the entire ecosystem. I think there was something like $4 billion in hacks last year. So yeah, it's maturing past that, move fast and break things, but I think we've got a long way to go. So thank you for the good work and keep it up. And thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It was a pleasure.
Talk to you later.